It's unfair.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Hey guys, and how are you all doing today? So by now you're probably wondering if you should see Solo or not. Well, for me, I really liked the movie, I had fun and it was epic, but much more about my reviews will be in another video. First, I want to go over 10 things that Solo answers for those who always wanted to know in Star Wars. So let's get right to it. 1. Where does Han come from? Han was raised on Corellia, a smuggler's planet, born into poverty and theft. He was controlled by a water worm-like looking creature sensitive to sunlight named Proxima, who rewarded her slaves essentially with rewards of food and goods in return for acts of crime and smuggling. 2. Han's name. How did he get it? Well, in the movie, Han escapes Corellia from Lady Proxima and enlists in the Empire to become a pilot. When asked for his name, he says Han. When the Imperial officer asks for his last name, the camera pans slowly towards him as he says he doesn't have any family or last name. He's always just been alone. The Imperial looks off into the distance for a second, then punches in the name Solo for his last name, and thus giving us Han Solo. 3. How did Han and Chewie meet? Well, when Han was fighting in a war for the Imperials on Mimban, he went to Beckett and asked to be on his team. When he told him that he knows that they're smugglers of their own and he can tell by the blaster holes in their stolen armor, Beckett gets mad at the blackmail and informs the general that Solo is a deserter. They throw him in a cell of a beast, just like the cell Luke was thrown in Jabba's palace, almost like the Rancor. However, this time, in Han's case, the beast was Chewie. As Chewie starts to beat him up terribly, Han has an idea and speaks Wookiee with him. The two devise a plan to escape together, where they're rescued by Beckett and flown off the planet. The rest is history. 4. How did Han get his famous DL-44 blaster? During his first job with Beckett and his crew by a campfire, Beckett disassembles his long rifle to give Han his DL-44 blaster, kissing it goodbye before he does. In the end, it was this blaster that Han used to kill Beckett in a standoff at the very end of the film. Ironic, he could save others from death, but nah. 5. Does Han actually make the Kessel run in 12 parsecs? Yes, but with a bit of a twist. He basically cuts through it. On the planet Kessel, Han, Chewie, Lando, and Qi'ra are in the Falcon with unrefined coaxium. As they're escaping the planet, an Imperial blockade stops them by getting in their way. To bypass this, Han breaks through the maelstrom with the TIE fighters following him. Shaking them all off, he eventually gets sucked in by the Maul, which was a black hole of fire, pretty much. Along with this, they were chased by a massive tentacle spider-like alien creature, which was also being sucked into the black hole. As they're all being sucked in, Beckett takes a drop of the unrefined coaxium and injects it into the Falcon, giving them a massive boost out of there, punching the rest of their way out with the hyperdrive. 6. How did Han win the Millennium Falcon? Well, in the comics we all know that Han won the Falcon from Lando in a card game of Sabacc. The first time they played at the beginning of the movie, Lando cheated by having cards up his sleeve. After the entire movie, Han goes for a rematch with Lando, this time seeing his card trick up his sleeve, and takes it from him as they greet with a hug. At the end of the game, Lando looks for the card up his sleeve and of course, doesn't find it, when Han places it in his deck and ends up winning the game, and the Falcon for himself. 7. Who was the big prequel character in this movie? Well, I'm very happy to announce Darth Maul. Now, this scene needs its own video and I'm gonna do just that. However, I will say that Maul shows up at the very end of this film as a hologram from Qi'ra. It was an epic scene and everything. I wanted to have Maul to return to the big screen himself. Ray Park did an absolutely amazing job reprising his role. I'm sure many are confused as for those who aren't crazy fans or watch the Clone Wars. I'll be explaining that one on its own special video. Maul orders Qi'ra to go to Dathomir and meet him to accelerate their plans. 8. Who's the big-time gangster that's putting together a crew? This infamous line by Beckett is actually going to be taking place on Tatooine. That's where he plans to go. However, he ends up dying. We don't actually find out who this big-time gangster is, but we could all assume that it's Jabba the Hutt. 9. Well, this one's kind of two questions in one. Yes, there are plans to make a trilogy of the Solo movies, however not titled Solo 1, 2, and 3, but rather just continuations of its respective characters. At least that's what the rumor is right now. I'm hoping we do get a Maul film, or at least see him in the Obi-Wan spin-off film that we're so promised to get. Now, how did Maul survive? Well, of course I'm going to make that video on its own, but he did end up becoming a spider in the Clone Wars, and then eventually got his feet back, but as a robot. 10. Should you see this movie? For me, I liked it. I think it was really fun and overall was just very nostalgic to have these characters brought back in their youthful forms. If you take the film for what it is, for its own movie, and don't try to compare it to Harrison Ford's performance as Han Solo, because let's be real here, Harrison is and always will be Han, then I think you'll enjoy this one. There's action and story combined to fit in the timeline, and it was all around just enjoyable for me. The scene with Maul at the very end to have Ray Park return and reprise his role was just fantastic. It was great. I highly recommend seeing it. I hope these 10 questions answered anything from the film that you didn't remember or anything you wanted to know. Thanks for watching today's video, everyone. Check out my Vader Fan-Film Kickstarter, and I will see you all in the next episode of Star Wars Theory. Until then, my fellow Jedi and Sith friends, remember,
the Force will be with you always.
Now, fulfill